everybody, it's Emma Lightning. As promised in my new setup for now, the lighting is not great, but hopefully I'll be able to adjust it and see what works best. I also have the kind of horrific sunburn right now, but just ignore that, because today we're going to be talking about something that I've been wanting to talk about for a really long time, actually, but I knew it was going to take a long time to write the review, and this is going to be a long one, so in lieu of my usual rambling at the beginning, we are just going to jump right into it, so get comfortable. Now, if you've been in the PIF community for any length of time, chances are you've at least heard of the 1977 short film APACHES. Directed by John Mackenzie, this 26-minute romp chronicles the untimely deaths of 5 small British children playing on a farm. So that's fun. Now, obviously, as the film is over 40 years old, there are many elements of it that are dated. The most obvious of which we'll get to in a minute. But even taking that into consideration and viewing APACHES purely as a product of its time, I sincerely cannot decide if this film is really good or really bad. It might be both, but honestly, no other PIF or PSA has had this effect on me for this long. I first saw APACHES years ago, probably about 5 years ago, and I've watched it many times since then. And no matter how many times I watch the thing, I get such a mixed experience out of it that I just feel the need to share it with you all, to see if you feel the same way. So, I thought we could watch it together here today. The opening is simple and cinematic enough, a title card in front of the afternoon sun, the silhouettes of our ill-fated characters, and the definitely not super ominous music.
The entire Apache nation gather in the hills above the headquarters, me, Geronimo.
We're introduced to our narrator, Danny, the whitest child you will ever meet, and his 5 interchangeable friends, Kim,
8. 8 years and 3/4, she says. That means she's 8.
Sharon,
9. Apache women weren't just squaws. They often fought too.
Michael,
Michael, wearing a red band. He's daft. The Apaches never wore red.
and Tom Robert,
Tom, Robert.
who apparently don't even warrant their own individual descriptions. Also, the audio in this movie is very bad, but kind of in a charming home movie kind of way, so I can overlook it.
Are we ready? Ready. Ready, Chief. Ready, Danny. Geronimo! I'm Geronimo! I'm cold.
I'd love to know whether Kim's line there was scripted solely so Danny could deliver a withering look to her. Shut up, Kim, you only have 3 minutes of screen time. Now let's address the elephant in the room, the culturally insensitive nature of the whole darn thing, because, of course, this was made for children in the UK in the 1970s, and it's one of those pieces of media that definitely wouldn't and shouldn't fly today, but you can kind of brush over it if you're looking back on it as a piece of history, if that makes sense. Obviously, the Cowboys and Indians game was pretty popular back in the day with kids. And aside from the questionable nature of it, it's really no different than any other sort of kids, outdoor adventure type game. To be honest, the fact that they're playing APACHES really has no relevance to the plot whatsoever. They even drop the game halfway through the film. It's just a motif to kind of tie everything together in a dramatic sort of way, if that makes sense. So my stance on it, yes, it's cringy, but I think we're all aware of that, and I'm pretty sure as a whole we know better now, so we'll take it with a grain of salt and move on. Throughout the movie, the scenes of the kids playing their game are intercut with scenes of Danny's faceless parents preparing for a party. A veal and ham party, which, as we know, is every kid's favorite thing.
Veal and ham pie. My favorite.
They cut through their neighborhood, doing their very best to clip the mics at every given opportunity. And I guess the farm is just right there. So here we are, not 4.5 minutes in, and things start to take a drastic turn for the stupid. In fact, I'm just gonna start keeping a counter up here because the mood whiplash in this PIF is like nothing you've ever seen. It's great.
We can't hear. What was that, Danny? Who's Danny? Sorry, Chief. But what did you say? I said, who's Danny?
The kid's ignorance of the dangers of the farm is believable, at least for the first time. But this guy, right here, yeah, he's criminally stupid.
What?
Pretty much every adult in this film is criminally stupid.
Right!
Let's just watch and see how he reacts to being ambushed by a bunch of screaming, trespassing children with sticks while operating this dangerous and expensive piece of farm machinery. Oi, would you look at that? There's a small child climbing around on my tractor. Well, as a self-respecting, nondescript farm boy, the only thing to do is turn around and pretend to shoot back. Oh, damn, it's not effective. Guess I'll have to resort to drastic measures. Well, I hope you all brought your preserves with you, because that shit is jarring. Now, in my opinion, one of the most confusing elements of this entire film is the characters' reactions to their friends' deaths. I know they're child actors and all, but still, the way they just stand there blank-faced is really creepy. That being said, though, the shots of the empty bedrooms and the empty schools afterwards are excellently chilling and probably the saddest parts of the movie. So an unspecified amount of time has passed, but I guess we're gonna assume that it's been enough time for these kids to forget about the gruesome demise of Kim. And don't even get me started on what kind of parent would let their child go back to this farm. I'm just gonna assume they've snuck out because that is the only thing that makes this whole thing seem not premeditated. Or is it? So after whatever that conversation was, they go outside and decide to play a game.
What are we gonna do? How am I supposed to know? Well, you brought us out here. I'm supposed to know everything, aren't I?
Sharon proclaims that she'll pick the game.
I'll decide what we're going to do, and we're definitely not going to play football.
And then promptly forgets the rules, which is actually really good foreshadowing for later, but we'll come back to that.
Come on, you got to come stand in the den. Why? Because that's the rules of the game. Help, everyone, I'm a prisoner. You mustn't shout, it's not allowed.
He shouts.
Robert, Michael, I'm a prisoner. Help is coming. No shouting, I said. I'm not shouting for help. No shouting names, it's not allowed.
This is completely irrelevant, but I just wanted to call some attention to this absolute unit right here.
Come on. You're thick. You're picking on me? Oh, come on.
While Danny and Sharon exchange some banter, Tom decides to make a run for it. This can only end well. Despite the cows shouting their warnings to the poor child, Tom persists in his, if you'll pardon the pun, shitty endeavor. We hear the ominous Apaches drums once again, and...
Ah! Daddy! 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 No shouting names, it's not allowed.
Another very jarring cut to the next scene as Tom's classmates play on, blissfully unaware of their own mortality. Danny continues to monologue about the grown-up party.
The trouble with grown-up parties, adults parties, is that they don't seem to enjoy themselves.
And we see a train who seems to have wandered into the wrong PIF. Danny begins to go through an identity crisis as he has now assumed the form of a cowboy, despite how insistent he was at being the chief of the Apaches earlier.
Welcome, O Chief. Sergeant, note this. Yes, sir. At Fort Sumner, scouts are allowed to man the gate. You what?
Sharon proceeds to call him out on this, to which he responds with a line that actually really made me laugh.
But I thought we were playing Indians. That is because you are thick.
I don't know if the delivery was intentional, but it worked.
How is it, Sergeant? So quiet, sir. Yeah, too quiet. I don't like it. I want to know when we changed from being Apaches.
Yeah, you and me both, Michael.
We could be the Apaches.
But of course, this proves to be the least of their problems.
But there's only 5 of us, so we have to be both. But there's only 4 of us. Yeah, 4.
Aw. I was gonna make a quip and be like, and whose fault is that, Danny? But it's actually really sad. So for whatever reason, the kids don't run away screaming when they see a tractor approaching, nor does the farmer tell them off, which just adds to my conspiracy theory that this was all planned. Also, if you'll take note, this is apparently a magical shape-shifting tractor. So that's neat.
Ah, they got me! Ah!
I think these bits are just meant to emphasize how little these children grasp, like, the permanence of death, so that's really fun.
I'm going, Sergeant! I'm going fast! I'm God!
But then the mood lightens up once again as the brave warriors ambush and vanquish the true greatest nemesis. Hey.
Hey, Sharon, that was great! Oh, it was nothing. Apaches have taken Fort Sumner!
Danny then decides he's an Apache again because he remembered that that's the name of the film. And the kids scream some more. Jokes aside, we actually learn with a brief couple of lines that this is actually Sharon's family's farm, which just, wow.
They're my granddad. He collects them. What are they for? I don't know. They used to be used on farms. It's his hobby. Oh.
I think everybody has reached a whole new level of incompetence. And Danny confirms this with perhaps the dumbest line so far.
It might be poison. Yeah, to kill the rats. No, it isn't poison. It would look like it. Smells okay. Here, give me that.
So you all know what happens next. They pretend to drink the liquor, which is obviously paraquat-based weed killer. And this is also the first and possibly only time Danny shows any actual concern, but of course by then it's too late.
I forgot. You alright, Sharon? Yeah, I think so.
And now we've come to the only scene that I actually can't make any jokes about because it legitimately upsets me. I've told you guys before how it's the audio in PSAs and PIFs that really amps up the scare factor for me. I can get used to graphic visuals for the most part, but when the audio goes full-on sadistic like this and really like draws out the pain of a certain scene, then usually I would find myself skipping it, but we gotta press on here. Like, if I had put individual scenes of PIFs on my top 10 scariest list, this would have easily made the number 2 spot. And I don't know why, because the rest of the movie is so, like, weird, but they just nailed it with this one particular scene, and that just makes it so much more unsettling. It only lasts a couple seconds, but geez, tell me that shit's not gonna haunt you forever. As if that weren't enough, they then immediately cut back to the party and show us Danny's parents' fancy bottles of liquor, which, yeah, they kind of do look like the bottle that was in the barn. At least to a kid, it sure would look like that. So, you know the drill by now. Danny complains about the boring grown-up party. The kids inexplicably switch games, scream, and chase each other to some low-budget music while the cows watch on in despair. And they all blatantly ignore the fact that they are now trespassing on the farm that belongs to the family of their dead friend. Yikes. The farmer has just apparently decided to give up pretending not to be evil and just barrels on towards Michael. Okay. But they've bamboozled us, folks, because it's actually Robert who gets taken out this time. Not by the tractor, but by a big metal gate falling on his head.
2, 3. Freeze! Mama, look out! Ah!
Danny finally manages to emote something resembling horror, while Michael looks less horrified and more like he found some roadkill, but whatever. And then there were 2.
I'm going to scout the land. Yes,
Danny, who was never great at emoting before, has now seemingly lost all enthusiasm, and we're treated to a rather depressing scene where he and Michael are the lone survivors of their tribe, as it were. He goes off, making sure to say hi to his friends along the way, and laments to himself about how bleak the situation looks.
The Apaches have fought well against great odds.
Oh, not because his friends are dying, but because the Apaches are low on food. Obviously.
We have no food. Winter is coming. Our people will starve. We have been robbed of our homeland, but we shall return. We shall survive. Our greatest need is food and shelter.
No, Daniel, your greatest need is to stay indoors for once.
Feed our people his way.
And then, in one final and particularly egregious moment of stupidity and not giving a fuck, we get this. Alright, be careful. I'm just gonna go here, look the other way, leave the tractor on this steep hill, let nature take its course.
As long as one Apache remains, it shall be ours. I, Geronimo, give my word.
Jump off, maybe? But for whatever reason, he can't or doesn't jump off. The two adults prove to be as useless as ever, and with a harrowing scream, he plummets to his death. And no, I have no idea how that killed him. I guess maybe he broke his neck, but it's anybody's guess at this point. Even in death, though, Danny still doesn't stop talking, and we're taken back to the party, which turns out to be his own funeral, one last time.
We therefore commit Danny's body to the ground, earth to earth.
And in another weirdly powerful and well-done moment of filmmaking, the last bit of dialogue from Danny is like a genuine tearjerker.
My mum and dad. It's a nice party. Quiet, but nice. My cousin Michael. My granny and granddad. All the family are there for the party. I wish I was. I wish I was there. Honest.
But even more of a tearjerker, of course, is the stark reminder that all PIFs are made for a reason, and this one is no exception. Yep, kids really were that dumb, or adults really were that oblivious, or both. So obviously, I don't have a joke to make about that. And that, dear viewers, was Apaches. After really sitting down and thinking about what I wanted to say for this review, I think I've decided I really do like this film as PIFs go. It's low budget but earnest, it's bleak but it has its moments of reprieve, it's a little campy but it's also got a lot of atmosphere. And, I mean, it was never made to be a masterpiece of film or anything. I think the more you watch it, the more you'll find Apaches to be an interesting glimpse into how dangerous places can look like a playground to a kid. And that's really what it's about. That's the message of the whole thing. It's putting us in these kids' perspectives, limits our exposure to the adults of the world, and it even keeps the camera angles pretty low, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, we're literally seeing the world from their point of view. So, on an adult fear level, this PIF easily scores a 9 out of 10. Especially for parents with young kids who maybe, like, play unsupervised because they live in a safe area like the countryside. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this review. As I hinted earlier, there are other 70s PIFs done in a similar style, most notably The Finishing Line, which I'm a lot less familiar with, but I do have access to, so I'll definitely take a look at it if anybody's interested. So thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this return from my extended hiatus. And now that I'm back into, like, the swing of things, hopefully I will be able to keep up with, I'm gonna say 1 video a week is my goal. And if you want to make that subscribe happy, hit the subscribe button. Turn on notifications if you want to see what's coming up in the future. Stay safe, play safe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!